Hi everybody. Okay, so someone out there wanted to know a little bit more um, about layers and layer masks and exactly how they work. So I thought I would do a couple of little uh, illustrations, a couple of little samples here to get a better idea of how um, layer masks can be used. The first one that I'm going to do here is that I'm going to use like a paintbrush, a with a soft edge, more like an airbrush, and I'm going to airbrush these clouds from this desert scene into this mountain lake scene. So basically what I'm going to do is that these dark clouds that are at the top here, I'm going to airbrush them into this photo here, into this blue sky area. And the way I'm going to do that is that I'm going to use a layer mask. And so basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this and non-destructively erase out this bottom area and keep only the clouds at the top. Okay, so let's begin. So I have my layer, the desert layer with the clouds, and then I have my layer of the mountain lake, which is below the desert layer with the dark clouds. If you're whatever you want to put on top of the other one, in this case the dark clouds on top of the mountain lake scene, your layer that you want to put on top of something else must be on top of your image in your layers palette. Okay, so with that being said, the first thing I'm going to do here is that on the layer that is called desert, which I'm going to name that real quick. It's always a good idea to keep your on my desert scene. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to go to layer mask, and I'm going to say from transparency. So what that does is that, as you can see here, that this is the start of my layer mask here. Right now it has nothing in it, and now I'm going to add the masking to it. Now the way I would add masking to it is that I would go to my paintbrush tool, and as you can see I have a pretty large paintbrush right now, and I have it's really soft. It's a soft paintbrush with a soft edge. The hardness is down to 0, and it's 400 pixels. Okay, now the next thing I'll do is that I'll make sure that I have a black color to use as my foreground color to paint with, or to, in this case, it's not really painting, it's actually masking out. So there, now that I have that all set up, basically what I start doing now is that I could um, just start painting or masking away the area that I want to not show up, and I want my the background, in this case the mountain lake scene, to show through. And as you can see, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm painting away the mask. I'm making a mask with my paintbrush. So I'm just going to keep doing that back and forth, and everything starts coming through. Now, once I start getting up to the dark clouds, I'm going to go a little slower. And as you can see, my mountains are starting to come through here. And actually what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make my paintbrush a little smaller, maybe about half the size. I'm going to make it about 200 pixels. I'm going to keep it soft because that's the effect I want. I want to make it a nice soft gradient effect between the two layers of clouds, so they look like they really do kind of fit with each other. So now I'm going to very so slightly paint right along the edge of those dark clouds. Alright, and that's not too bad right there, especially for kind of a fast little tutorial here. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ever so slightly paint out the last bit of the big mountain right here. or mask it out. I keep saying painting, but it's actually masking. Okay, so as you can see, by just doing the mask, now I have these dark clouds in my photo, and now it looks kind of looks like the mountain is a volcano or something, and it's going to erupt. Um, Now, to even maybe take this one step further, okay, now another thing I want to point out real quick is that now you can see how the little mask icon over here has changed. See, now I have the black area that I just quote unquote painted or masked out, and white is still represented by the stuff that is still visible on this layer. Everything in black is no longer visible, and that's how you can tell uh, if you have masked it correctly. Now, another thing I want to point out is that here you have the little chain link icon. What that means is that this image, your main image, is now linked to your mask. So that means that if I were to move this up and down, if I had, say, multiple layers and I was moving this up and down through layers, that these two things, the image and the mask, would stay together. They would not fall apart. If I were to take this away, like so, then if I were to move this around, the mask would not necessarily move with it. So in this case, I want to keep the link in place. Now, as I was saying, to take this one step further, what you can do is now let's apply a blend mode to this to give this a little bit more special effect. So now let's just go here and let's go multiply. And as you can see, that really darkened it up, made it even more ominous looking or whatever. But you can try different things. You can maybe like a color burn, which even gives it even almost like that's almost a surreal look. Not really what I'm going for. Maybe a screen. Yeah, I didn't think a screen would do much because basically it's doing, as it says, it's going to screen the color white, and so really screening the color white doesn't really give you much effect. You can do an overlay, and that's kind of a more of a subtle, use of that. Here, let's take it back to normal, and we can see the difference. See, it's kind of dark there, but now with that overlay, kind of gives it a nice blue feel. Actually, I kind of like that effect, and it looks nice too. I mean, it still is kind of a positive picture. It just gave the sky just a little bit of extra, oomph. Makes it a little bit more powerful. So I kind of like that, and I think that's where we'll stay. Okay, so that's the first example of using a mask. In this case, it's a painted mask. So as you can see, if I click that off, you'll see how that has changed. So that's one way to do a mask. Now, in my second example here, I have this image, which is actually two different layers. The first layer, I have our cowboy photo, and then on the the bottom layer, I have it's basically an image of a blank coffee bag. Now, what we want to accomplish in this exercise is that what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take this image of the cowboy and I'm going to mask his face onto this bag. And basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to make a render of a product. Basically, this is really effective if you want to do mock-ups for new products, like a can, or in this case a bag or something. It's a fast and easy way to do mock-ups. You can basically take let's say you have a new product that's coming out, like I'm going to make a new product that's called, we'll call it Cowboy Coffee. And so this is going to be the quote-unquote artwork that's going to go on our coffee bag. And so this is an easy way to make those kind of mock-ups. Basically, I'm going to take my artwork, in this case being this the artwork, the quote-unquote artwork is this cowboy, and I'm going to do a layer mask to mask that image directly onto this bag and make it look pretty realistic. Okay, so the way we would do this is that first of all we'll take our cowboy image. We have our cowboy image here, and we're going to place it. Actually, to make this a little easier, I'm going to lower the opacity of this just for a second so I can see through it. As you can see, it makes it a little easier to see through it, and it makes it better to line it up onto the product bag or the container that you're going to do this with. And actually, I'm going to use the transform. I'm going to use the transform tool to, or command to scale this down a little bit. What I did to get that is that you can do it either two ways. What I did there is that I did the Command T on Mac or Control T on a PC, and that makes the transform come up. So there's Command T, and that makes the transform command come up, and here you have your handles to where you can control the size. Or the other way you can do it is you can go to Edit, Transform, Scale, and that brings up the same thing. Now, you take a handle, and to keep everything in proportion to not squish or pull on the image. If I were just to start doing it, see how I'd pull them? I don't want to do that. I want to keep everything in proportion. So the way to do that is that you hold down the Shift key as you size your image to the size that you're looking for. So I'm going to try to size him just slightly larger than the size of our bag, because I want just a little bit of overhang to make this work right. Okay, so let's see. I want to get just a little bit of white space around him, so and to center up his face, because that's the thing I really want to show through. Okay, so that's what I think I got it in a place, and I got it sized to the way I want it. So now I'm gonna go to my move tool. It'll ask me if I want to apply that, and I'm gonna say yes. I'm going to go back to my cowboy layer, turn the opacity back up to 100, and as you see, he's back to 100% opacity, and you can't see the bag anymore. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off his layer, the cowboy layer. Now I have just my coffee bag layer. Okay, so the next thing I want to do here is that I want to only select just the bag. I'm going to make a selection of the bag area. Now, in this case, because the bag is white, is a pretty bright white compared to the background, I think that the way to do this is really, I think the easiest way to do it is to go over here and use the magic wand tool. My tolerance is pretty good. 30 is a pretty good tolerance, and the tolerance meaning grabbing 32 levels of white. So if I click this, it'll give me a large range of white. So I should be able to pick up, this white and even the white here that is a little bit more shadowy. So we'll start here. We'll see how far that gets it. Actually, that gets us a little too far because, oh, okay, actually I'll show you why that happened. Because as you can see, I'm still, even though the layer is turned off, as far as visibility, I'm still actually clicked on the layer. So what it did is it selected something from that layer, which I guess is, if I guess, is, yeah, this area behind the cowboy. That's what it selected. So I messed up there a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, we're going to deselect that. I'm going to turn the cowboy layer off, and then not only am I going to turn him off, but I got to click onto my coffee bag layer. Now I'm on the right layer to do this work that I was just explaining about using the magic wand tool to select this. Okay, so now I'm going to select, and as you see, that did a pretty good job of getting the white edges of this bag. So now I'm going to hold down the Shift key, which gives me the plus, and that means it's going to add to this selection. And that's a little too much. So I'm going to lower this tolerance, maybe down to 15. keep clicking until I get all of the bag. We may even have to clean this up just a little bit at the end. We'll see how much of the bag we can grab. Now, as you can see, all of the things that are still doing the, as I call it, the dancing ants look, is things that are not selected yet. So if I keep just selecting, see, I'm selecting more and more pieces of this. Okay, let's go in. We're going to zoom in a little bit to get the hard parts down here. See how much more of this we can get. Okay, lastly, I think the thing we're going to do now is to get a little bit better selection here, is that we're simply going to take the lasso tool and press the shift key again to continue to get more of the selection. And now I'm just going to draw right along the edge of the bag to grab the last bits of the bag that we didn't get before. Okay, that part got a little overzealous there. Okay, now I'm going to come over here. Just grabbing a little bit more of the bag here. Okay. Okay, let's see what we got here. Well, this looks pretty good. Actually, I got one little bit there that is evading me, and I'm gonna. There we go. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I mean, I could spend a little bit more time cleaning up the edges a little bit, but I am not going to get too worried about it because this is just an example. This is not a finished piece or anything. This is just to show you all how to create this effect. Okay, now I have this selected. I have my bag selected the way I want. And now we're going to go back to the cowboy layer, turn him back on, and click the cowboy layer. So now see, I have it selected in the area that I want my cowboy to create a layer mask out of. So now what I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go to Layer, Layer Mask, and okay, now that you have Reveal All, Reveal Selection, Hide Selection. And frame transparency we used before, and you saw how that worked. Okay, so in this case, this is our selection. So what I want to do is I want to reveal the selection in this case because I want to reveal everything that's within this selection and mask everything that's outside of the selection. So we'll go to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal Selection. And there you go. Now you have our cowboy on top of the bag, masked as the artwork for this bag. Now, to make this look a little bit more realistic, you want to go back and you want to do a blend mode. Sorry, a blend mode. And let's see, I believe the blend mode you want to use here is overlay. Nope, I'm sorry, it isn't overlay. I think it's multiply actually. Color burn is kind of cool, but that's not really what we're looking for. There we go. Now linear burn, that looks pretty good. Because here I'm going to show you. See, multiply, you can start seeing some of the, let's zoom in just a little bit. You can see some of the details of the bag coming through in the shadows, but not a whole lot. Like see right there, you can see the seal. But if I go down to that linear burn, you actually really see a lot of the seal coming through and more of the shadow from the bag coming through. See that? Yeah, so that's not too bad. That looks pretty good. And another thing we can do here is that let's just lower the opacity just a little bit so you can even see a little bit more of that coming through. Maybe something like that. Yep. Okay, I think we're going to go back to linear burn because I think that really is the most realistic use of this blend mode. Okay, so there we have that, and let's just do one last thing just to make this look a little more like a coffee bag. Let's put some text on it. We're gonna go with Myriad Pro, and we're gonna go larger than that though. We're gonna have to go like 30, I think. We're gonna call it you can't see it right now because it's a dark color, I think. We're gonna have to change the color on that. So let's go up here and change the color here. We're gonna change it to white so you can see it. And go to character. We're gonna make that all uppercase. And we're gonna spread the lettering out a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting to look at. And I think maybe even to make it look a little bit more interesting, we're going to go to transform and we're going to, oh, actually, the first thing I got to do is that I think I have to rasterize this. Yes, rasterize the type. Then we can come to transform. We're going to warp this. Move that up just a touch. Whoops, not that. The text, we're going to move it up. And then I think we'll apply another I guess we're not going to apply anything to it. Maybe just take down the opacity just a little bit so it'll blend in a little better. Alright, so and there you go. We have our cowboy coffee. So this basically this is a great example of showing how you can use a selection to make a layer mask. As opposed to using the paintbrush to make like a softer paintable mask. This is a hard edge mask here. And just to show you also how the masks work, see how in this case the selection, which is white, what we wanted to keep is still white. You can go in here and at any time you can disable by right clicking on your mask, you can disable or delete your mask. And see, by disabling it, now you can see the whole image again without the mask applied. Now if I go back and enable it again, then it shows the mask again. So anyway, that's a couple of quick um, tutorials on how to use layer masks. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right, well, thanks for watching. Bye.